Chris, look, we were talking a little bit of Oregon earlier. Dan Lanning's the guy. He hadn't been able to crack through and win that big game. But, we've seen guys, head against the wall, and then they break through it. Jim Harbaugh, for example, right? Kirby Smart, for example. Dan Lanning is a hell of a football coach. Don't you just think it's a matter of time?
I don't want to say that about anybody going into this new era of the playoff. I think everyone has these preconceived notions of what we know we're going to see in the playoff.
Yeah.
To the same point though, the thing that makes him different is that he's so far removed from the SEC, but he's building his team exactly like you'd want to build an SEC team, and or like the way Michigan was built last year, and that's from the inside out, the recruits that they're bringing in and the talent they're bringing in and the depth on that roster from the inside out. And what I mean by that is from the defensive line, the offensive line. But Cristobal somewhat tried to do that with his offensive line pedigree, but what Lanning has been able to do from that specific point of view on how to build a roster has been very, very impressive. And then just from a pure massing of talent, it's everything in college football now is an arms race in terms of talent. It has been for the last probably 10, 15 years, and he gets it. He's worked under Saban, he's worked under Kirby, and the amount of talent he's brought in, I think is something that is going to be really, really impressive. There's a reason why they're favored already over Ohio State. I will also say I'm not sold on Dylan Gabriel, but we can get to that as we get closer to the fall. I don't think that he's necessarily going to be the star that everyone thinks he's going to be in Oregon.
Yeah, well, I think their ability to run the ball, and I know we're going to have you back on multiple times. I think it's going to protect him a little bit more than the past. But I want to shift to a team, Chris, in the SEC. You look at LSU, and Brian Kelly, when he got the job, there you go. When he got the job, he is one of the best CEO head coaches, style of head coaches in the country. But it seems that LSU has not found a way to achieve balance. They basically switched places with Ole Miss. Really good on offense, can't tackle anybody, not really a complete team, and it costs you. How awkward is it? Because you grew up watching the same things I did in the Southeastern Conference. Watching LSU be this bad on defense, do you think they're going to be able to remedy it this year with some of the changes that they made? It's almost like finding out, LSU, it's so awkward to watch them being bad on defense. I used this analogy the other day. It's like finding out your dad can't fight. It's like watching him get beat up. It's just weird to see.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to bring up dad stuff. We can do that, some other time as well. This is good.
Well, that's the next show. That's the next show.
That's perfect. Yeah. I think so. The issue with LSU, I think Blake Baker is going to be a phenomenal hire at DC.
I do too.
What he did at Mizzou, and here's the thing: they can't get worse. The benchmark has been set so low. If you talk to LSU fans around, Baton Rouge in general, I think there's a lot of frustration from last year because it's you look back, especially after that NFL draft in the first round of it, the amount of talent they had, and they were the points they were able to put up per game, and just having somebody like Jaden Daniels in general. If you had any semblance of a defense, you probably would have competed for a playoff spot or potentially a national championship. And they didn't. So, I think the defense will get better. The thing with LSU that blows my mind, right? LSU as a brand, everyone knows is going to compete to some elite level, it seems like, every year, every couple of years. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I've ever seen a victim of social media culture and what my buddy J.D. Pickell always calls this punchline culture as bad as Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly is one of the winningest active head coaches in the entire country. He's got over 260 career wins. He's been really successful at every single stop. Won the division, got to Atlanta in year one in the SEC. But that man lost in embarrassing fashion in 2012 to an Alabama team that won the national championship. In 2018 to a Clemson team that was one of the best, maybe top 5 teams of all time, some people think. And then in 2020 to Alabama, who's also probably a top 5 team of all time. Those 3 losses have skewed everyone's view of Brian Kelly and how good of a coach he is. And it's mind-blowing to me. Yeah. I think LSU is going to be really good this year. And the schedule is really good as well. If you look at some of those main games, they're favored in almost every single game except for A&M somehow. I think they're going to be really good this year.
Yeah, I like you said, defensively can't get much worse. I like Blake too.
Yeah.
That was a hell of a hire.
Hey, Chris, I've been talking to a lot of Colorado fans over the past couple of weeks, and
Gross.
they're all really excited to be in the national narrative. Hey, we finally have eyeballs on us at the national scale, breaking spring game attendance records, and it's really exciting. I mean, if you're a Colorado football fan, to finally hey, look at this. We're getting talked about with a lot of these other schools that we're going into the Big 12. And, maybe we have a chance to actually compete for the conference or maybe get into a college football playoff. But then they tell me also, is it a good thing when our head coach is posting on social media about players transferring and calling them out personally? I just want to ask you, is Deion Sanders opening himself up for these other teams they're going to play to just try and drop 50 on them every single game? Or with Deion Sanders, is it just imperative that he play the heel persona and just embrace the villain role every season?
So a lot of nuance here, I think, in this whole Colorado debate. You brought up the whole thing about your dad not being able to fight. This is Colorado's you find out your dad's not able to fight, but your dad is constantly getting into fights.
I thought this was America.
Yeah, I thought this was America. The thing with Deion is, listen, first and foremost, I think he's great for college football, and there's tangible evidence to show that that's true. You saw all the numbers last year from a year ago, the views and the viewers of everything that Colorado was. I was appointment television a lot of times, especially in the first month of the season. But here's the thing, you saw it last year with the first coach you brought up, Dan Lanning.
Yeah,
I mean, Dan Lanning was not playing around. Colorado is very lucky they don't have to come into the eastern part of the United States because they are going to get their ass beat in every single meaningful game while he's the coach there for at least I don't see how it gets better after his son leaves and Travis Hunter and all those things. They have gone into a situation where they have been it's a quote from American Gangster: "The loudest one in the room is the weakest one in the room." And I think that it's a cool story, and it's fun to see somebody that is that vocal and that much of a heel and all that great. But this isn't wrestling. I mean, it's college football. And you do, at some point on Saturday, I always say this, they're going to tee up that effing football, and you got to line up and go play somebody. And they, when the lights got bright last year and it wasn't just playing Colorado State or a horrible TCU team, it was way too bright for Colorado. Again, great for college football. I hope they go 0-12, man. And not even just because of Deion, but Shedeur is that. There's just no part of that kid that makes me believe he's a leader of men, man. It's so much me. It's kind of frustrating to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, doesn't it feel like if you have the mindset Deion has and the way he goes about it, that's okay when you're Deion Sanders and you're going to play.
Yeah.
If Deion Sanders was going on the field and he was the one doing the physical action, okay, I can get it. But that's hard to put into someone else. Take the, I'm going to go out here and dominate you mindset, and then I'm not the one playing. That's a totally different animal.
Well, it's cool. It's always cool to see somebody break the mold and shatter a glass ceiling and all that kind of stuff. I'm all for that, and I think it's awesome to see what he has been able to do. Right, he went to Colorado, he had all this hype around it. That's a 1-11 team that was averaging giving up 53 points per game in their last 6 games of the season before he got there. But then you come in and you don't make an in-home visit in Boulder, right? Since you've been there. You strictly go to the portal and you're all right, maybe year one that does work. Maybe it's a new era of college football and he's able to turn this thing around. That doesn't work. We saw this year it didn't work at least. And now in year two, you still don't have any high school recruits. The transfer portal stuff is kind of drying up a little bit. And you're still as much of an a-hole about all of it. With the comment he made about, why would I do an in-home visit? Kids don't want to see, I don't want to see a kid's house. They want to see my house. All right. It's just, it's all, it's so much. It's so much. And I think he's rubbing too many people the wrong way.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, I have a serious question. Are you going to be playing the new NCAA game when it comes out?
Your brother messaged me about this the other day. Me and Jimbo were at Planet Fitness.
Me and Jimbo were at Planet. There's a story.
Do you like Planet Fitness, Chris?
I was at Planet Fitness.
Do you like Planet Fitness?
No.
I love it. It's a judgment-free zone. No, I
don't make that joke.
Come on, dude. I don't get so many chances to do
that. Don't make that. It's a family show.
It's $10 a month. I don't do anything in the bathrooms, okay?
Well, it's Planet Fitness and
Yeah, plan on fitting these nuts in your mouth.
here we go.
Okay.
And there it is.
That's what it
Yep,
was.
and
All right,
you
well,
kept
this is
pushing it,
probably
Chris.
until
You
Blaine chimed in.
brought it.
Yeah, you kept pushing it.
So what's your thoughts of the new NCAA
Sorry,
game,
ladies.
Chris? You gonna play
Sorry,
it?
ladies
Yes.
listening.
No, I'm not. 'Cause I don't have a console.
Chris, go get one.
I don't either. Let's go get one together.
Are we gonna have to make an
Yeah.
in-home visit? We're gonna have to come make an in.
Because right now I'm taping my PS2 and my PS3 together and calling it a PS5.
Hey,
It's
that
not
works.
working.
Yeah.
That works.
It's not working for me.
Listen,
Plug 'em into
you're
each
a
other.
country music star now, so you can definitely afford a new one. So
Yeah.
it looks awesome. Like it looks like it's going to be awesome, right? Like I think I don't want to date myself, but I will. But like, dude, the greatest Christmas break I ever had as a kid was like my freshman year of high school. It was when Outkast Stankonia came out, and I just got that CD and then NCAA 98 on my PC ROM with Danny Werfel on the cover and played it for like 2 straight weeks. I had a dynasty with Idaho. And then North Carolina playing in Idaho Stadium. It was fantastic. So at some point, I'm going to have to do it. I'm just trying to wait as much as possible.
You could relive that Christmas break again, Chris.
Yeah, every day, every break
Every
could be
day.
Christmas free.
All right, let's go to Ben Elliott. Chris, he wants to know, who is UGA's biggest threat to winning the national championship?
The Athens PD.
Oh
Those guys.
Oh, Chris! I mean, I got a good one.
That's barely a knock on Georgia. That is a lot of the knock on sometimes. Man, those kids get into a lot of trouble for things that don't always seem like a huge deal up there. But no, the answer is Ohio State. If you sat me down today and we looked at both teams from a roster standpoint, it's hard not to argue that Ohio State might be a better starting 22. Like you look at some of these early mocks for next year in the draft, just the talent. Dude, the talent that Ohio State kept in-house from last year to this year is really, really impressive. Did I just lose you guys?
No,
I see.
Okay, so I've thought about this and wrestled back and forth with it because I think they're on a collision course. I've thought this for the last 3 years in a row, though. But I think they're on a collision course for the national championship, and both of those teams are so talented from the roster standpoint, the starting standpoint, the star power, all that. You just look at it from a coaching standpoint, though, and I think that's easily the X factor because nobody's coming close to Kirby in the country right now, in my opinion. So can Ryan Day get over the hump that he has in big games? That's the main question. But I think Ohio State's the answer there.
I had this image of like what's happened to Ryan Day over the last 3 years. Like, you know, the medieval like wheel, like the torture device that they turn, it like stretches your arms and legs. It's like every time that they've played Michigan or that sometimes happened to Ohio State the past 3 years, like they've just turned the wheel like one more time. And it's to the point now this year where if Ryan Day loses again to Michigan, which there is no excuse with that roster, with playing them at home, with what Michigan lost in the coaching staff and from a personnel standpoint, that Ohio State shouldn't win that game. I know it's a rivalry game. You know, you never say never, but it just feels like Ryan Day is, talk about a guy who's won a lot of games, but is still, you know, feels hot. That's Ryan Day. But we got one more from the Bitch Club line.
Yeah, let's go to Edward. What's up, Edward? He says, will Nebraska be the surprise of the Big Ten as they learn to win those games they lost by less than one score?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, they've lost a ton of close games over the year, and that's usually a stat that you see year over year completely change, right? Like it's like one of the reasons, like I think there's some hesitancy about Mizzou is a good example. Mizzou, I think they were 4-0 in one-score games a year ago, or 4-1, something like that. So like sometimes that will change year over year, just like turnovers can.
Yeah.
That stat has not really seemed to change for Nebraska over the last several years. I think they're going to be fun to watch. I really do. I think Raiola is going to be fun. He's clearly your answer at quarterback. I think it's a really cool pairing with like the nostalgia of anybody that grew up watching Nebraska be good.
Yeah.
And then having this much juice from an elite recruit like that. He's the highest ranked recruit in program history. I don't know if they're going to be the must see or you know, biggest turnaround story, whatever it was that Edward said in the Big Ten. Just because there's so much new in the Big Ten, right? Like you have all these new teams that are coming in. But I do think they are going to be really fun to watch. I think Nebraska's a team that people are going to start pulling for. Like nationally, I think they're going to be, because they also seem a little bit harmless. It should be fun watching that fan base kind of come back to relevancy this year.
Yeah, well, Chris, to your point on the close games, like the one-score games, last year with the quarterback situation, it felt like Matt Rule in those games, they were just trying to hold on, just to keep it close. This year, and again, we'll have to see, but with Dylan and some of the moves that he made, it feels like they can be the one that's applying the pressure in the close game. You can always tell those teams that are like, please God, just don't screw it up. They end up screwing it up. I go back to the Minnesota game last year for Nebraska, where they were just trying to hold on. The Colorado game, just trying to hold on. And when you do that, eventually the dam breaks. You want to be the aggressor. Raiola will make mistakes. It'll be up and down because he's young, but he's got a lot of talent. And Matt Rule, man, he's built to build. I know that seems like kind of what he is. But speaking about building, man, Fourth and Wrong podcast, great stuff. Been watching on social, Chris. Know you guys are having a whole hell of a lot of fun there. Tell everybody where they can find it and where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, man. Fourth and Wrong. It's a daily podcast now. We're coming out every day. We have the newest episode. We have like our weekly long episode with me and my co-host Tyler Huck. Comes out every Monday. But as a show, as a whole, Fourth and Wrong podcast, it's out Monday through Thursday. We have a live show at 8 p.m. and then Friday at brunch at 11 a.m. So make sure y'all tune in, and we'll have two of you on. It won't be Blaine. I'll just admit it. The other two, you guys, David and Jake will come on. Yeah, after the nuts in your mouth comment, Blaine, you're gonna be.
Look, I don't want to come on after I find out you work out at Planet Fitness. So I feel like it's a win-win.
It's $10 a month in this economy.
You can't.
In this economy,
you can't come back from that, Chris.
Chris, great stuff, man. Go check out the Fourth and Wrong podcast. You and Tyler do a really good job. Thanks for getting up with us early, buddy. What's up, YouTube? Thanks for stopping by. If you haven't already, you don't mind, hit that subscribe button. We really, really appreciate it.